Okay, so Marshall here wanted to know what all the drama was today with Anthropic in the AI world, didn't you? So we're going to go through a couple of our favorite creators and break it down as quickly as possible. Boring him already. So the first is Matt Wolfe.
So you have a company like Anthropic, and let's say they're training their Claude Opus model. To train this model,
Claude Opus is one of Anthropic's models. So Anthropic is the company. Similarly, ChatGPT is one of OpenAI's models. So OpenAI is the company. We pretend that we're talking about the iPhone. So Apple is the company, the iPhone is the model.
Well, they get data from as many places as they can. Most notably, they scrape the internet for it. So they scrape the internet to train this model. They use books to train this model. Basically, any data they can get, they use it to train this Opus model. Now, when a company uses model distillation, instead of doing this whole process of taking as much information as they possibly can and training a brand new model on it, they're basically using this model to ask it questions and get responses. So you have like a script that's like the student, right? Where Opus is the teacher. The student model will submit a prompt to the teacher model, in this case Opus, and Opus will send back a response to the student model. Now, most models are thinking models these days, where you can actually see the chain of thought of how they came to the conclusion. So when the student model asks the teacher model a prompt, the student model not only gets the actual final response back, but they also get all of that chain of thought back, so it actually can learn how the model is thinking a little bit. And then this is repeated hundreds of thousands to millions of times over and over and over again. The student model sends a prompt, the teacher model sends its chain of thought and its response back, and you've got these prompt response pairs that are generated. Now, when a company like Opus wants to go and create a smaller, faster model, say this is what they're doing. They're taking their state-of-the-art best model, doing a distillation process on it, getting these and then they're going and training this new model here. So instead of this model being trained on all of this entire corpus of data that was scraped from all over the internet, instead it's being trained on just these pairs of prompt chain of thought responses. So it's taking in much less data. It's essentially learning how this model thinks without having to shove in everything that this model initially scraped. Now but that's essentially what distilling is. It's training on the responses of a bigger model to make a smaller model that can sort of mimic what the bigger model does.
Okay, so now Marshall would like to show you a different example from Nate Jones. So we don't know Nate, but we like him and we like the way he explains things, and we especially like this little snack.
Let's look at a football game as an analogy. If you watch an entire NFL football game, you see every single play and also lots of ads. If you watch only the highlights, you see less ads, but you also see much less of the football game, only the parts that the NFL thinks you'll be interested in. That's kind of like a distillation.
AI companies do this all of the time. Again, when companies are doing this with their own models. But in this case, they're doing it to train their models. So this whole Moonshot and Minimax are coming along, and they're doing this process on a model that's not theirs in a country where technically they're not even supposed to have access to this model in the first place. All right, now that you know what distillation actually is, let's take a look at what Anthropic claimed just happened. On February 23rd, Anthropic claims they have high confidence through IP address correlation, request metadata, infrastructure indicators, and in some cases, corroboration from industry partners who observed the same actors and behaviors on their platforms. So they're basically claiming they know who did this and they have the data to back up who did this. Starting with DeepSeek, they claim
this wasn't going to be an AI and wine. This was going to be AI and dogs, but because of the spiciness of the drums, we are going to, it's already open, so like it has to be drank. Totally not a sponsor. It should be. Okay, listen to this.
There is a little bit of irony in the fact that Anthropic, a company that famously trains all of its models on data scraped from around the internet without anybody's permission, turning around and complaining that somebody used their model to create information without their permission. Now, the scale and methods definitely differ, but the principle of taking other people's existing work that they worked hard on to create to train your own competing product, I mean, it feels kind of similar. Like, look, back in June of 2025, Reddit sues Anthropic for allegedly not paying for its training data. Reddit claims in the complaint that Anthropic's unauthorized use of the site's data for commercial purposes was unlawful and alleges the AI startup violated Reddit's user agreement. So I've been hearing a lot of arguments lately on X and various places about how, like, this is different. When Anthropic got its training data, it can be considered fair use. When DeepSeek and these Chinese companies distilled their models, well, that was against the terms of service. Yeah, but they did it to Reddit against Reddit's terms of service. So how is that much different? Yes, DeepSeek is going against the terms of service of what Anthropic allows, but Anthropic went around a whole bunch of other companies' terms of service to get the data that was in their platform. Now, I'm not going to just single out Anthropic. Obviously, all the big AI labs are guilty of this exact same thing. OpenAI was accused of transcribing over 1 million hours of YouTube videos to train GPT-4. OpenAI is actively tied up right now in a lawsuit with the New York Times over copyright. Meta trained their models on tons of books that were gathered illegally, just like Anthropic did. And they actually did it knowingly. There's actually chat messages that show that they knew what they were doing was not legal, but they did it anyway. XAI and Google have got caught doing it as well. They've been getting sued for scraping pirated books for AI and search training as well. So all of these companies are doing this, and I'm not just saying this for like the whataboutism of it all. I'm saying this because the entire AI industry has been built on a foundation of take first and then ask permission never. Now, I